Hey, it's Alirien, and I am filming this immediately after getting almost done with the bodice. We are launching straight into working on Sybil's inner sleeve. It's a simple curved sleeve with button closures along the inside. The sleeves were another PDF pattern that I'm going to need to piece together, so we're going to jump into that pretty quickly here. I just need to double check which pattern piece is necessary to do this. And some of this has been pieced apart already. I had to piece together the hanging sleeve to double check if I had enough of a material to use as lining for the bodice skirting. So it's a little bit wonky, but I've got my tape and I will grab some scissors as soon as I need them. But we need, I think, the wide curved sleeve? No, it might be the narrow one. Yeah, I think it's the narrow one. Curved sleeve, narrow or wide. I guess we'll mock up both the wide and the narrow and see which one I like better in terms of fullness. Let's piece together the pattern first, and we will figure everything else out once the pattern is intact. Okay, so I got the pattern cut out. This is cut. I just haven't pulled it up yet. One critique I have so far, the way that the double notches for the back of the sleeve are marked on the pattern makes it very difficult to distinguish one size's notches from another. But this is all that's needed for a mock-up. I did, after further consideration, decide to go with the narrow curved sleeve instead of the wide one, because I was concerned that the wide one would create too much bulk underneath the hanging sleeve, and I don't want to interfere with that too much. So we're going with the narrow one. I think that will ultimately be just the better silhouette and work better with the full ensemble. I haven't read through the instructions yet, but I'm deducing that these markings here are probably for the points to tie that to the shoulder of the bodice. And we have gone with the size 12 based on the bicep because that was the more definitive measurement. It should be more than long enough due to the size 12 because the arm length should have been the size 2. But for the sake of making sure it is wide enough around to get around the shift sleeve and the bicep, we're going with the 12. So yeah, we're going to stitch this up real fast and test it over the shift sleeve and see how we like this size. And if we like this size, then we will cut this out again in that black and silver material from the 4-part and some lining and get this stitched up following Miss Anderson's instructions as best as we can. But if you've been watching any of these videos before this one, you will already know that I have many qualms with how Miss Anderson made these patterns. And I will once again state that I do not recommend these patterns for anyone who is a beginner sewer because it's taken me a lot of interpolation and extrapolation to get some of these things done. I had to guess about notches or forego notches entirely. I've had to make all sorts of creative decisions that there weren't instructions to cover how she would have handled it, etc., etc. So yeah, don't, unless you really want to test yourself, if you are not already familiar with how sewing patterns and costumes tend to work, I would not recommend these patterns, period. I ran into an issue while I was cutting out the pattern itself after piecing it together. 3 of the 4 curved sleeve pattern pieces were marked as upper and 1 was lower, and it should have been 2 lower and 2 upper. It was in fact the lower curved sleeve of the wide curved sleeve that was mislabeled. And all that needed to happen was one word getting edited, but it got lost in the shuffle. And that's, you know, it's one more mistake that's adding to a list of issues. But we're gonna stitch this up real quick following the instructions and do a test fit and go from there. Okay, ignore the sounds of COD zombies in the other room, but here is our mock-up sleeve, and we just did the test fit, and it should fit pretty nicely. I may come back and make the wider sleeve at some point in some other material, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with the size. It's just the right length, at least so far as we can currently tell. Here's the one thing I'm not sure about. I will need bias binding for the top edge, and I don't have silver or gray or black bias tape currently. That might have to be a last-minute purchase on the road tomorrow and something that I sew by hand for the sake of having something there, because the other option would be to just pin the upper edge to the bodice for this weekend and then finish it off after the fact. But yeah, sleeve is good, so I'm gonna go ahead and move forward with cutting this out in the outer fabric and the lining, and I just need to make sure that I stack these opposite ways so that I end up with a left and a right sleeve. Yeah. Obviously, I stitched up both seams for the mock-up, but this seam will actually be open and will be the side that buttons shut when it is complete. And my happy ass did not go get any buttons, but somewhere around, oh, I think they're in the den still. I do actually have 10 wee little pearl buttons that may be used. When I go get the bias tape, if I spot another button style that I like better, I will grab those. Honestly, I kind of want a bigger, very pretty shank button that's either black or blue or silver. But for now, the pearls will work as a backup if I don't find anything else. Let's go cut this out of our canvas and our lining. She doesn't actually. Thank you. I should probably explain my process here. I have 3 layers for the sleeves: the lining and cotton, heavyweight interfacing, and the outer canvas with the silver design. So I layered the interfacing and lining all together in one and seamed that together, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the outer shell. I'm stitching up the outer arm seam that goes over the elbow, and once I do this seam on both sleeves, I will lay this face down over the interfacing layer of the inner section, match the notches, and pin it, and we'll stitch all the way around, down one length, across the wrist, and back up the other length. Done, so I'm gonna set this aside and do it again with the other one. Last thing with the machine is to baste the top edge shut. Technically I should also bias bind with the machine, but I will probably end up having to do that by hand.
Oh yeah. What's your first day?
It was great. I was gonna go get mine to put along the shoulder and underarm of the sleeve. Hey y'all, it's Editing Allie, and this is another one that got a little bit away from me toward the end, though I had very little control over this one to begin with. If you couldn't tell from the various clips how tired I look and sound through the process of making most of this. This was knocked out quite literally the night before we left for Texas Renfest, with the last few clips that were filmed during the day, right before the reveal, being taken care of in the week directly following Texas Renfest so that I could get it finished for Louisiana Renfest. The footage aspect is a little bit rushed, and the sleeve was a teeny bit rushed. We might open it up and try to taper it toward the wrist a bit more so that it fits more snugly, because one issue we did run into, while Sybil is mostly happy with the sleeve, through the course of the day, the sleeves kept trying to work their way down and the cuff was trying to swallow her hand. So she was having some difficulty handling things, especially with the weight of the hanging sleeve. This goes back to the fit issues we ran into with the bodice after all of the weight was attached that we didn't foresee before completing it. But otherwise, she thinks they're beautiful, and I did what I could to pattern match them so that they look somewhat identical on either side. The buttons I ended up using are gorgeous. They're pearls with this beautiful silver filigree around them, nice large ones. So we did end up with 4 on each sleeve instead of 5, which was the original plan, but I think it works out. The other main issue we were running into, though, was the ribbon for the points fraying very easily, very readily, and several several of the points on the actual bodice, not so much the sleeve, frayed enough that they came out of their stitching. So I will need to find a more secure way to do that, or a sturdier ribbon. I may see if I can get a hold of Petersham ribbon, because I think it might be a stronger version of a grosgrain. So we'll see how that goes. But there is one more vlog left to be edited before you're caught up to where I am, and that's her hanging sleeves. However, before you see the footage of building her hanging sleeves, you'll have all of the vlog footage from Texas Friend Fest. I am still undecided currently if that will be 1 vlog or 3. We'll see what happens when I actually get to the editing stage. You might get 3 short vlogs or 1 longer vlog, but that should be coming out as soon as I can possibly get it done. But yeah, let me know what you think of the sleeves in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the video and the series so far. If you did enjoy the video, I presume you know where all of those buttons and links are to show me your love. But if nothing else, I do hope you will subscribe. We're on the march up to 500, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. If you'd like to see more content like this, I do have a playlist of all of our costumes that we've done so far, linked in the cards and in the doobly-doo below. If you'd like to keep up with my adventures on other social media planes, assuming you've already subscribed here, you can find my Linktree portal also in the description for my Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, and so on. And as always, I'd like to give a special thanks to my coven of patrons who continue to be my biggest supporters. And if you, dear viewer, would like to join their ranks, again, check that Linktree portal for my Patreon, which begins at $1 per month. Thanks again. Stay tuned for the Texas Friend Fair vlogs. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be 3. And I will see you all again very soon. Keep aiming, my loves. Mwah. Bye, y'all.